We are back now on air. If you are watching us on social platforms, this is the time for us to discuss the finance bill. You know, just having a look at it here with my guest of the day. We're just conversing, of course, what are those ones which are most of the most concern to Kenyans? Ni gani ambazo unafaa kuangalia? Because there's a lot here that we could speak about. I am going to allow Miss Monicah Wamuchiru to be the guide for us for this conversation, to let us know, of course, which parts as a finance professional she has had a look at, and the ones that she will point out to Kenyans to be very keen on in following up, of course, as the conversation continues in the halls of Parliament. But before we get into all of that conversation and details, grab yourself a copy of the finance bill. It was already gazetted. You can find the copy online. I'm sure there's also a couple of publications across in the media space so that you can also follow along. Mali unaona kitu, una highlight pale, unatuma text ama unaacha comment, alafu unatuambia hii watu wangu inani affect aje na nita avoid namna gani mambo kama haya, and any other conversations or concerns that you have, we'll be handling them. Let me allow Miss Monicah to introduce herself to our viewers here. For those who are watching you here for the first time, I think my audience is watching you for the first time on this show. Please introduce yourself, and then you can let us know your general first overview and thoughts on the current finance bill.
Thank you, Richard, for having me. As you've already said, my name is Monicah. I'm the finance lead consultant at... Happy to be the heart of the matter. We're hoping patient that has been going on for the given the trend of the past few years.
Yeah.
Still been doing public participation. In 2023 we did the same thing, and the bill was
78% people said no.
And the bill was passed mostly as it was. So let's see how this year is going to be. I do not expect, honestly, that they will take into consideration so much of what Kenyans have said. But I also understand there are external factors, especially debt, that Treasury is grappling with. So, and the conditions that the debt has come with, that we have to meet, or we signed off that we will meet. And those we've seen them come strongly in the Finance Bill 2024. So as much as Kenyans are like, we don't want this, we don't want that, there's a very big chance, because we've already taken on the conditions and the debt, we may not see Parliament actually taking the views on.
Right. Off the chart though, before we get into the details, isn't that a very big kind of hope to have, given, where does that leave me as a Kenyan when I think about that? You know, I participated last year, I told them I don't want this, I don't want that, and then now we are here back again. Where does that leave me?
It's actually very frustrating for especially the consumer, because most of these costs will be burdened to the consumer. So if I am a manufacturer, if I'm a business person, if there's any extra tax that has been levied on me, I'll most probably just pass it on to my buyer. So the consumer is at pains here, and I would say they're left with almost no choice but to carry that burden, because as an individual, I cannot say that. So if I take bread every morning, I have no capacity to say now I'm not going to buy the bread for the new price. Me alone at home, I'm just going to go to the shop and I'll have no option than to buy the bread at the new price. But Parliament is the one that is supposed to protect Kenyans from this. They've not done so well considering the past, but again, as I've said, there are also factors, external factors that are they're not way beyond, because they were still approved by Parliament. So even the debt was approved by Parliament. They knew the conditions and they still approved. So
we just have to wait and see if it's taken into consideration. But just maybe to make it clear, I am not discouraging public participation, because I hope that the more we do it, of course, this brings awareness to more of the populace and citizens, and eventually this will yield results. I mean, that persistent push to Parliament to show them that Kenyans are aware of what is going on, and we're in touch with the financial happenings of the Republic. As of 1st July 2024 is when this bill will be assented into an act of Parliament, and if passed into law as currently presented, most of these proposals are going to have different effects. Some of them are going to be effective as of 1st July 2024. One of those is going to be the motor vehicle circulation tax at 2.5%, affecting the gross value of your car. That's how it's calculated annually, and many other, of course, which are provided here that we'll be getting into. Before that, let's get an executive summary from you on you having a rough look at the finance bill of this year. And of course, coming from what has been there last year, some of these have been adjusted upwards. For example, that DST at 1.5% is now being moved to 3%. We have that eco levy, which was last year at 3.5, now back to 2. This is actually the tax rate on income on non-resident transport operator, moved from 3% back to 2.5, and then we're back again. A lot of changes. You're looking at it roughly. What is your executive summary from where you sit at?
So I can say that the worst hit people, so let's break it down. If we're talking about income tax for individuals, that's pay as you earn. If you're salaried, there's a proposal that states that the new social hospital insurance fund, that is SHIF and NSSF, the new rates, they're not going to be income tax deductible. So that's a little, I think it's one good thing we can say, because the taxable income for an individual who is salaried is going to be a little lower. But then now look at the big picture. What percentage of Kenyans are salaried? Because most of them are informal. So this does not affect a very big chunk of Kenyans. Okay, when you're talking about income tax, that's corporate. We say that's VAT. Let's look at VAT. We see some items that were exempted, that these items are actually items that are used day by day to Kenyans. I say, for example, bread. That's a staple food, I can say, has become now 16%. Even you've just mentioned air operators, as you just stated. So there's a provision that has purchase of aircrafts. I deal a lot in the aviation industry, so I know that a change from an exempt status to a 16% vertable status is a big change for air operators. So, and that would mean that some of the net effect would be you're not competitive in the region, in the sense of why would somebody not go to Uganda or Tanzania to carry out their air operation business. When you're looking at excise duty, the worst hit industry is manufacturing. Now, because of the newly introduced rates, which are higher first, we have sugar, we have alcohol, we have the one that has really hit Kenyans a lot is the diapers, because the diapers are under eco levy, but there's also an excise tax on them. Packaging of plastics. We use a lot of plastic for packaging materials. Like every day you handle a packaging material
that has plastic.
That has plastic in it. So if you introduce 16% and you introduce excise duty on it, that is just it is disincentivizing the manufacturing industry. For eco levy, there's a whole list. First, the problem I would have with eco levy is we are not yet even over the implementation of the export promotion levy, because that is what has been changed to eco levy. Guys now are not even fully aware what was going on in the 2023 finance bill. Then there's again a significant change under eco levy. which has been introduced.
So you're saying this is what was the export and investment promotion levy?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's like they're now removing that and putting in the eco levy, which is
1 year later.
1 year later.
That's
so
surprising.
Now, if anyone wants to set base in Kenya as a manufacturer, then you will think that the landscape of the taxation regime is so unpredictable, which is also a big loss for us, because you wouldn't even be able to advise somebody. Somebody comes to me and tells me, I want to set base somewhere. Tell me, I want to set base in Kenya. Give me a financial advisory. What is the projection for the next 3 years in tax liability? Yes, I'm likely to mislead them, because what will happen 1 year down the line? Some other levy, some other miscellaneous under the Miscellaneous Tax Act may change. So that is one of the biggest problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So here's a question, and it's in the minds of very many Kenyans in terms of the balance. When you look at how this has been spread, we, as you said, the most affected will be, one, the taxes which are going to be passed down to household commodities, and then of course anyone else who's outside the pay slip, because most of us aren't salaried in terms of the general population. Rich versus poor, who's going to be affected the most from the finance bill of 2024?
Actually, for once, I have seen that there's one under income tax. I've seen that they have removed the exemption on family trusts, because that was previously a tax exempt. I think that's the only thing I can say has directly impacted the bracket, I would say.
That's called rich.
It's called rich. But otherwise, every other thing would boil down to the consumer at the bottom of the pyramid, because every other cost will be passed. Again, the rich are the ones who own the businesses.
Yes.
So as a business person, I'll definitely pass down that cost.
Not be the one to incur that cost.
If it's VAT, I'll definitely charge it. If everything.
I think then that's how that conversation should be had, because when you look at how our political class presents this to a normal Kenyan, it's watu wako na magari na wenye wako na payslips ndio wana complain about the taxation. But when you have a look at all of this, the implications that it has, even in importation, which I don't think we have mentioned there, the taxation that is going to be there, the implications on technology products, smartphones, telecommunication equipment, computing devices, and also that move of from DST to SEP tax.
There's also that. So we are moving from 1.5% in digital tax services to they're going to be 6% effective tax rate. So again, that is also a bit, because we already had the framework for digital service tax, and guys are barely starting to get used to this. Now, what the new introduction, it's in two ways. It's affecting the owner of the digital platform and the one who is running their business on the digital platform. So the owner of the digital platform is actually now supposed to pay corporate tax of 30% on a certain, they've said 20% of the deemed taxable income. So that is on the owner of the digital platform. Okay. Now, and you who is running your business on the digital platform, and remember they've like expanded that tax base to, freelance professionals.
Yes, I had a list here. As you say, let me just fetch it and then I'll read it out.
Yeah. So they've expanded that bracket. It's now any service or product that is being facilitated by a digital platform. So as long as that income is being deemed to be first obviously Kenyan, and then you're getting it through that digital platform again, now that the owner of the platform will withhold tax on your income 20%. So that is also now, so if I have a channel and I monetize it, I'm supposed to get, so the holder, the platform that
I am using
to run the channel will withhold
that amount
20%
of my money.
Oh yes, So you say it's actually 5% for residents, 20% for non-residents. So It's not, it has held every corner, like that's the digital economy where most young guys are
in that gig economy. Yes. Let me just read through the digital marketplace there. And it says the bill seeks to amend the definition of digital marketplace for purposes of determining income which deemed to be accrued or derived from Kenya to mean an online or electronic platform that enables a person to sell or provide goods, property or services, including ride-hailing services, food delivery services, freelance services, professional services, rental services, task-based services, any other service that is not exempt from tax under the Income Tax Act. Would you say that this is because the government has recently been seeing young people wakiguzaguza wanafinya computer, pesa inatoka, and
I think so. So you see, when the people who are under Ajira Digital, now they are no longer being covered by there was a provision for exempting them from tax. So sasa wao
they have to submit taxes under this section.
Yeah, so I would understand the government's effort to try and have more to try and generate more revenue. Are they fair? That will be the question.
But the question of fairness will arise where the government looks at this, sits at State House and looks at it and says, Netflix, they make so much money.
Yeah.
Spotify, they make so much money. Uber makes so much money. Why do they not want to pay just 6% of it? It will be a good way for them to raise revenue.
Yeah.
So are they allowed to do this? Is this something that should allow the government in terms of trying to patch that gap that KRA has been unable to fill in collection?
Yeah, if they get income from Kenya, then even if they're not permanently established there, I believe they should pay some level of tax, some amount of tax to the government. But now the collective issue is, eventually when we pay the tax, do we see the benefits of paying tax?
Yes.
Because as much as we're reaching to the point of where the Kenyan population is feeling too burdened with tax, you know, where there's always that tipping point where the more you tax, the more people become disincentivized. So all your efforts now start bringing in. It becomes counterintuitive.
Yes.
So you try to bring more revenue, you try to tax more, but because the people are not first feeling like their tax is used properly, second, the economy is not doing very well, third, there's no economic growth as you would expect. Or rather, the economic growth, the numbers we're being given, we're not seeing them. Because we're being told the economy is growing at a rate of 5.6. But then if you ask me, are you growing by a rate of 5.6? I'm like, no, I'm not.
I don't think so, because even the cost of commodities as compared to, let's say, 10 years ago has dropped, or inflation, the cost of commodities has gone up by around 30% for most of them. So when we're told 5.5, 5.6, it raises a few questions.
Cannot relate to that figure at all, and most Kenyans cannot. So now then, and then you tell me you would like to tax me a little bit more, then I feel like...
So we're going to head to 22% eventually, according to what President William Ruto is saying. And now we are at 14%. We're complaining at 14%, and we have 8% more to go. How would your financial outlook look like when we come to discuss the finance bill of 2025?
Wow. I think that they should at least sit down a little. I think the strategy should be you grow an economy and let the money come.
Okay.
Not you tax it to grow it. You don't tax it to grow it. You stimulate it. You provide a good environment. You create good policy. Then it grows. Because anyway, a country's economy is not driven by government. It's public. It's private sector. It's I who will put up a business. It's you who will put up a business and employ some people. It's I who will put up a business, and government can only do so much. It has a cap in terms of how much people it can employ, how much it can. But if we create a good environment, we can have 10 more people starting a business, and then that is how you get economic growth. Then if 10 more people start a business, then you can collect income tax from 10 more people, which then grows your tax and revenue. Exactly. It's that, or you grow your tax base, that is bring in the informal sector. So I think they have tried to do that with e-teams. They're calling it the hard to tax sector.
The informal sector that hasn't previously been reached. Yes, there's a lot of money circulating there. Is that something that's true? Is that a true outlook that there's money lost in the informal sector?
It is. Yeah, it's true. Honestly, it's true. So, but how they're going about it, I feel like e-teams is a bit too complicated. I think you should make it as simple as possible. First, simplify the tax regime. Let it be known that everyone who has an income of below, say 3 million per annum, you're paying turnover tax of, say, 1%. Okay? So let that be constant. Don't change it, don't fluctuate it, and then let the method of payment be as simple as possible. It should be like almost like the way you dial to buy airtime. Like 5 minutes, you're done.
You should be done. Yes. Rather than the whole process of eCitizen.kra.
Because that is the only way the informal sector can come in.
So you've mentioned that there's fluctuations in terms of how this is applied, where it is applied, and experts are saying that it is time we had a national tax board. First, we have one, and how does it look like, and if it was to be better, so that eventually we don't, next year again, significant economic presence tax is changed to something else. Enjoyment tax at 10%. Or something else. How do we ensure we have a framework that guards Kenyans against that kind of fluctuation?
So surprisingly, we do have a national tax policy.
Oh, okay.
It was enacted in December 2023. It was actually enacted, but it has not been implemented.
Okay.
Like even say when you look at the tax bill right now, it has not really aligned to the national tax policy. So the national tax policy, for example, when it comes to excise duty, it recommends that we have specified rates, and these rates are supposed to be revised after, is it 3 years or 5 years? So it gives a duration, a specific duration where you're not you retain the rates of excise duty for the different products for either you can only revise them after 3 years, or I don't know if it's 3 or 5, one of those. So then that gives some kind of predictability.
Yes.
Okay. Now when it comes to, say, pension, excuse me, again, the national tax policy has given a framework for taxing pension. So currently we are in the we allow for pensionable deductions, like they are tax deductible, but and then we allow for pension income to the fund, exempt, but at the point of withdrawing there's a tax.
That's where you are taxed when you're coming to get it.
So they're trying to introduce a system for where people it remains exempt at the point of paying, exempt for pension income, exempt at the so that there's no issue of when I need the money most, that's when you're taxing me, and I'm already retired. So it is harmonizing those issues, even in terms of corporate tax, in terms of VAT, the administration. So yes, we actually do have.
So when you say it is not being enacted, is it that they are ignoring it, or what is it that is happening there? I thought a national tax policy is something that is
followed. Yeah, because when you look at the finance bill and you look at what the national tax policy is, they are not in. Most of the things are not in tandem.
Yes.
You wouldn't say, because then we have like from 2023 to 2024 we've fluctuated from so many levies and taxes. Well, the national tax policy recommends that we at least we stick to one and revise it to say after 3 years or after 5 years. So those are some of the things.
All the things that have not been followed through. Right. Those are very great or blatant disregards if you put in that they are not considering the opinions of stakeholders, the public participation of Kenyans, the provision in the national tax policy. It seems then that the finance bill is something that the results have already been predetermined. That is the kind of outlook when I interact with this, given from last year and now at this point where again the investors, the stakeholders are crying that when it comes to tax policy matters, our opinion should really count. And we have the experts for all these things. My producer keeps reminding me that some of the suggestions that we give here are really simple, are too simple. Why are we doing the work of experts who are paid billions of Kenyan shillings at State House to advise the presidents on this? Let's talk about financial transactions, which are something that Kenyans are also concerned about. How does that look like in the new finance bill? Pesa yangu, there is a very comical comment here that it will be easier if you are sending someone 100,000 Kenyan shillings to buy a SIM card, deposit the money, send the SIM card to them, na mwambie pin. Aende withdraw kwa sababu it's way easier and cheaper that way. How does it look like?
So currently we just pay 15% excise duty to transfer money in the banks and on our transactions. So, but in the new finance bill, they're proposing to first increase excise duty from 15% to 20%. So that's an increase already by 5. All right, and then there's a proposal to now introduce VAT again. So that is, I would say, double taxation, for lack of a better word, because we're paying excess duty of now 20%, and then there will be an extra 16% on the transactions. Now, that will be like ludicrous, to say the least, because the banks are one of those institutions where you need people to be there constantly first to grow their capital. Okay, the bank is one of those places where you need to be using, you need to have your money pass through so that even your own capacity for growth in terms of loans and for businesses also to grow. Now, what does this do to an individual consumer? So like now, just today I have made about 5 M-Pesa payments just today since I woke up. Just to get here. So imagine the transaction fees I've paid. Now imagine they will increase excess duty on that and then VAT on top of that. Now, as a consumer who pays small things on the spot, and mostly is mobile money or bank, like transfer bank to till or bank to pay bill or bank to a number. Now that is going to be really expensive in terms of just the bank charges. What does this do to the economy? This slows us down in terms of I'll not want to use the bank anymore. So less transactions, less growth for the bank. What does that do to the bank? Less volume of transactions means less income for the bank, and therefore less also tax. But there's so for the bank
the less amount of money they are putting in the central bank, and and
it's just one big cycle of
all right. That looks very grim, and we are hoping, of course, that our recommendations are going to be taken into consideration. I was going to look at the positives. Are there any positives out of the finance bill? Are there people who will celebrate? For example, in terms of per diems, I saw that there's a change that accommodates much more. Are there any other positives including that?
The only other positive, okay, maybe not the only other, the one I would mention is to telecommunications. When you are acquiring your license, there's an investment deduction that has been introduced, so you can pay over 10% over the period of 10 years. So it's been recognized as a capital investment. the cost of the license. So that's good for
what does that mean for me as a Kenyan who had 3 very strong terms there?
So it's no longer like an expense. It's the same way you amortize an asset. So you can amortize it over a period of 10 years. So the cost of the license, you can amortize it over a period of 10 years.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that amortization will be an allowable deduction when you're computing your
That's the one positive one that you can pick out as the most outstanding.
Yeah,
yes.
For telecommunications.
All right. Kwa wale ambao wanapenda kukula, the bill proposes to change the tax exempt portion of the per diem from the first 2,000 per day to no more than 5% of the monthly gross earnings of an employee. This is how it looks like in terms of non-cash benefits. It proposes an increase from 36,000 to 48,000 as the limit on non-cash benefits provided to employees. In terms of meals, it increases the exempt value of meal benefit from 48,000 to 60,000 per employee. The meal should be provided in a canteen or a cafeteria established by the employer. Yes, so yeah, I guess you're happy for your lunch or something of that nature. Recommendations from your seat as a finance professional. You've already hinted, of course, on how it will look like if the government approached the expansion of the tax base differently in terms of investing in the people who are already of course hard to reach, as you said, and also ensuring that the pay slip is growing so that I have more to pay and more to spend. What are the recommendations as they go into trying to pass this finance bill?
So my recommendations would take several ways. So first, you do know that I think Treasury is a little bit under pressure to raise funds. So that's why we can say that they're trying every avenue. I think most of the pressure is coming from debt. So this is more of a mid-term to long-term strategy. Try and restructure the debt. Okay. That will be number one. And then number two is at least don't let the same dog bite you twice in terms of don't get into the same stringent debts again. Like hopefully we get out of this unscathed. So just don't get into it again. But thirdly is again going back to debt. If you look at the debt structure, right now we are about 10 trillion in debt. So 50% is external, 50% internal. So when I'm looking at 50% internal borrowings from banks, that means banks would rather
give the government money
than
citizens. Right.
So what does that do to me as an investor or as a business owner? I don't get the credit I need. I don't get the capital I need. I'm not able to expand. So maybe it should look to incentivizing the banks to actually work with the citizens, because those are the only institutions currently that have the muscle to actually stimulate the economy in terms of injecting money into the economy. It's the banks right now, because the government is...
So the banks should put money in our pocket rather than put money in the government's pocket so that we spend.
But again, it goes back to the government to opt not to borrow from the bank, because if the bank would rather go to government,
it will always go to government.
Like as a first choice. So at least try and make a balance between banks so that banks can be able to go back and give private sector and at least government. So that is in terms of debt, but also in terms of just fiscal discipline. So why are we in so much debt? It's because we've been having budget deficits 1 year after another. So accumulation of this that's how we go to the 10 trillion. Because we always have budget deficits, which are big. By the time we are on the third supplementary budget, it's like we've gone to right now we're saying we are at 300 deficit. And then by the end of the fiscal year, it will be a whole other figure. So fiscal deficit. Even right now,
does our financial discipline mean how the government is spending or how it's budgeting? Do we need a lean budget, a tighter budget?
First, you need a way leaner budget. But then again, I looked at the budgets on the Treasury website. And if I was a member of parliament, I would also not be able to point out the areas of cut
out.
Why? Because the way as it is, literally you wouldn't be able, the devil is in the details. So if I cannot zoom in and see, if there's a say hospitality and what services, whatever, say there's that budget line for, and it's a couple of billions, I cannot zoom in and say
this is what hospitality means and this is how much per item.
This is going to this state department, is going to this county, so let's cut this county by half, let's cut that state department by half. You know, so the devil in budgeting, the devil is always in the details. And if I'm not able to zoom in, because members of parliament will not go through a 5,000 page document.
Definitely, yes.
So they're also not able to tell where to cut. Okay, they can't zoom in and say, I can cut, say, fuel in Narok County. So, you know, they can't tell.
They can't get the details.
And those are the details they would need to be able to make the budget lean.
Okay.
So those are some of the proposals I'll give for Kenyans. I'll tell them, just brace yourself. Brace
July 1st is coming. Yes.
Brace yourself for more tax. I'd say be in compliance. Because then if you're not in compliance, the penalties are way worse. I'd also say that try and have several income streams. This is purely consumer to consumer.
It's not easy given that investors are leaving the country. My current one income is it's going away. So.
So for consumers, get best alternatives to be able to maintain your lifestyle currently.
So if you're eating bread, move to yams and
probably
and that. Okay, if you don't want to use Netflix, Gujara.org. Okay, let me not. But those are alternatives that you can be looking at to try and as you wait for several streams of income. I'll give you a breather so that when you're signing off, you have more energy to give us a final recommendation or maybe as your final word. And outlook on the finance bill. Let me read a few comments though. Jam 2 Peter says, I swear to God, I will not buy a bread at exaggerated prices after the assenting of the finance bill 2024. Man shall not live on bread alone. Tutakula ugali na mihogo. Ruto hapana jaribu sisi. Hapana jaribu, right? Mugeni na Bwire, tough times indeed. Looking forward for the newspaper review segment. Tuned in from Thika. Jilo Mamu anasema hizi taxes zinatumaliza. Locked in all the way from Kiambu. Enzi Ganzel, finance bill exacerbates, come on, where we will bring dictionary tax in the next finance bill. Ukiendelea hivi. Finance bill exacerbates financial strain on Kenyan citizens, and on the other hand, I also feel there is a skepticism about whether the funds to be generated through taxation will be used effectively. So that's that concern on the fiscal discipline of the Republic. Bilhan Kimathi, what a terrific show. Mumbi wa Muhu, asema great show. Trevor Totona, Okenya, great show watching nikiwa Marland. Rit Gatkuoth anasema the show Biashara Tuesday is good. It's good, thank you. Also let us know where you're watching this from. So that is what we have been having a look at in terms of course, the finance bill of 2024. Get yourself a copy of that, and also alongside, you can have a look at the national tax policy. It's a document that you can Google and find. I have mine here, the draft on what that looks like, the rationale of the national tax policy. To achieve the country's development agenda, we need to have resource mobilization and also discussions around the financial happenings. What is the government planning and what will they be passing on to in terms of law? 1st July 2024 is when you can expect this to be the Finance Act of 2024. Edgar Ndege anasema, does the government consider the law of unintended consequences? Ama we are staggering towards a 22% average tax rate, hoping we get there safe and sound. What will you react to that from Edgar Ndege? Does the government consider the law of unintended consequences? We are staggering towards the 22% average tax rate, hoping we get there safe and sound. Will we even get there?
I don't think we will be scathed, definitely. And yes, we are getting to the point of where we'll get unintended consequences, where you wanted to raise more revenue, but you actually get less. Because people will find,
other ways of
investors will pack and leave, or like, for example, if you're a manufacturer, you'd rather set base in Uganda or Tanzania and then just import because of zero duty, because of EAC.
Yes.
So what does that have? What does that do to employment in Kenya?
Less jobs and much more effect.
Exactly.
That you can't wait to not see. We can't wait to not see, because I don't see that happening. Thank you very much, Monicah, for creating time for us here this morning. So this is tax month. I hope you're encouraging people to still, be tax compliant regardless. Taxes are a good thing. It's a good thing to pay taxes. The question is, as of course someone here pointed out, is my money being used to the best of what it's supposed to be allocated for? We'll continue that conversation in the newspaper review section later on. We'll highlight, of course, what the stakeholders have been able to table to Parliament, and what Parliament is saying through their chairman, Kuria Kimani, the Member of Parliament, who's chairing that Planning and Finance Committee of Parliament. But that is as much as we had here. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Any final words and recommendation to the taxpayer and to the government? This is your chance.
I think make it as easy, straightforward, less complicated as possible. Don't fluctuate so much in your tax regime. Make it predictable, and just concentrate on growing the economy. You don't kill the goose that lays the egg. How will you get the egg? So just preserve the goose, and then the egg will come.
Yes, and the egg will come.
Yes.
So it's the egg after the chicken, or chicken before the egg.
This time the goose needs to be alive to lay the egg.
Yes, earlier we had pointed out the public participation. Last year, 78% Kenyans said no to the finance bill of 2023. Alafu tukambiwa jokes on you, because it's now the Finance Act of 2023. Should we continue participating? I had said that ni vizuri to keep applying that pressure, but pia ku give up ni option. I have enough towels to throw in. So
okay. No. Kenyans should not give up. Actually, I think this year has more have participated in terms of, when you look at the awareness of what's in the finance bill, more people are aware, more people are actually aware of the position and how the tax will affect them in their various industries, not just the key players. You just used to see key players, experts. This time, when the consumer knows something, this one will touch me, that means awareness is growing so much compared even to last year. So Kenya should not give up. They should make their views known to governments and to their representatives. I hope your members of Parliament listen, so that when they go to Parliament, you don't have the same, tyranny of numbers going on. I hope they actually stick to, this bill does not work for my people, so let me say no, regardless of the political pressures in Parliament. Because again, when it goes to Parliament, it becomes a political process, as opposed to, just
debating the facts. Yes.
So we hope it won't go that way this time around.
It does not become a political conversation in the halls of Parliament. So keep reading and keep informing people. Pia ukipatana na mama mboga, unashika tu hiyo mboga unamwambia hii tax yake imefika hapa na hapa, so that everyone of us is aware. Yule who will be closest to your representative atamwambia jana watu walikuwa naongea wakasema hiyo bill haiwezi, kama utafanya hivi na hivi inamaanisha next year we come to and recall you from Parliament. And that is a conversation I'll pick up with Nick Mwadime Mwangi, the political side of it. Of course, it's important to have a look at that and how it will be handled in Parliament. The National Assembly, which will be debating that in a few, and then also presenting it to the President by 1st July 2024. Nick Mwadime Mwangi is the National Executive Director of the Mount Kenya University and Colleges Students Association. He is here alongside Faiza Gatwiri, who's a youth leader for Meru and a journalist. Her prowess and journalism will be very valued, and the input she will give in terms of the happenings of the day and a continued discussion on the finance bill. So if you had questions we didn't answer here, leave them in that comment section. Tukirudi, we'll also handle them and your reactions. So don't go too far. Be a Shara Tuesday.